Y'all, did y'all see the clip floating around where Monique did an interview with Jay Hill? I think that's how you say his name. But yeah, she did an interview with Jay Hill, and she was talking about how basically Carlos King did her worse than Bravo. Now, I'm gonna be honest, okay? I don't like to sit up here and tell no lies. I did not watch the entire interview, and I don't plan on it. I seen the clips, and that's what we talking about are the clips. Okay? Full disclosure. We talking about the clips that I've seen, and that's it. And that's all it's gonna be. Anyways, basically what Bird Lady was saying was when she left Potomac, Carlos approached her on some, we black people gotta stick together, you know, that was a white show. They don't like to show black families in a good light. Come on over here. I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna make sure that this doesn't happen to you again. And he buttered her up real nicely. She also acknowledged that she had a lot going on with her life and her marriage and a lot of stress. And that when she got violent back in season 5, that she took out her frustrations on the wrong person. Now, we all can deduce that she was talking about the fight with Candiace, because who else did she get physical with? So let's unpack this. Do I believe her that she said Carlos approached her on some, we black, we got to stick together, we black. The white people, they don't know how to tell our stories. Yeah, I believe that. I believe he said that 100% for sure. I think that sometimes Carlos comes off as an ass kisser. He butters people up to get what he wants from them. We've seen that so many times in so many of his interviews. A lot of people complain that they don't like his interviews because he's always like gassing his guests up. And it's just like, you cannot be that intrigued by some of your guests. Like some of the things that he says, we know, right? I remember at the Love and Marriage DC reunion, he introduced Monique as reality TV royalty. And my thing is, if there's such a thing, it is not Monique. Reality TV royalty, in my opinion, would be like Tammy, because Tammy was on Real World back in the day, and she was on Basketball Wives, and she's done all these different things. That to me is somebody that I would consider as reality TV royalty if we gonna talk about it. I would say the Flavor of Love girls, New York, obviously, the Osbournes, the Kardashians, even though, you know, I don't always like some of them, but them, Monique, hell no, reality TV royalty, girl, bye. But anyways, I do believe her when she says that he came up to her, gassing her up, talking about we black and we got to stick together. I believe that. Y'all know that after Monique quit, she went on a couple of different people's platforms and was talking about her experience and saying how they mistreated her, mishandled her, all this different stuff. And a lot of the people who were defending Monique was using that we black card as well. Like, oh, you know, they treated her so wrong and it was colorism and this, that, and the third, even though Monique herself said she didn't believe that there was colorism. But then later on came back and changed her mind. So I 100% believe that Carlos keeps his ear to the street. He kept his ear to the street. He saw how certain people who were in support of Monique was talking, and so that's how he approached Monique. And let's just be real. That season 5 fight that happened on Potomac, if you even want to call it a fight, I don't think it was a fight. To me, it was an attack. When you reach over a table and grab someone who is significantly shorter than you and smaller than you, and you grab them by their head and you're hitting them over their head across a table, and people are yanking on her, people are yanking on you, that is for sure an attack. You didn't square up with her and say, bitch, we about to fight. No. You grabbed her and you pulled her across the table. I don't care if she knew how to fight or not. You knew she could not defend herself. People like to rewrite the way things occurred, and I'm not ever changing my mind. You reached over the table, you grabbed that girl, stretched her, who's way smaller than you stretched her across the table, and you assaulted her. That is an attack. If you had moved the table around, or if you had walked around the table and said, bitch, put your hands up, we about to fight, that would have been a different thing. You fought someone who had never been in a fight. That to me isn't a fight. That is an attack. She chose to fight to hold on to her wig as you were hitting her upside her head. That was not a fight. That was an attack. Anyways, you guys remember the great debates that took place surrounding that occurrence, right? People were talking about it. People were fighting about it. People were uncousining and unfriending people left and right. Baby, we had a time. And a lot of us were not working because this was during the panini. So we had nothing but time on our hands to talk about this and discuss this. And so somebody like Carlos King is watching all this mayhem and all this craziness unfold. Of course he wanted to take advantage of it. You weren't returning to Potomac. So of course he was like, hey, come over here and help me kick off this DC franchise of Love and Marriage. Let's use the momentum from that to kick off my new show. He used you and you used him. You wanted to prove to these people that you were a star. You wanted to make these people feel stupid for not bending to your will, for not taking your side. And you thought Carlos could help you. Carlos thought you could help him. That's what happened. Let's not make it seem like he took advantage of you, because I don't feel like that happened. Did he play you? Yes. But you played yourself ultimately. You went over on that show and you thought, both of you guys probably had hoped for the best. Y'all hoped the ratings would have been through the roof. You thought the show was going to be successful. You felt like the show was going to show you in a good light. A lot of people who went from loving you went to being like, I don't think I like her very much. But you know what also happened? A lot of people that was going up for you never tuned in to watch that show one time. I think it was a very humbling experience. But you took the humble out of it. Like you refused to take the humble out of it. Let me just say this. I watched Love and Marriage DC. I watched every episode. Okay? But before I watched the episode, I'm not even going to sit up here and lie, because some of you probably already know this. I was talking with my friends on Twitter, in Twitter Spaces, and I was like, I can't wait till this show comes out, because people are going to see Monique for who she is. I said this, and a couple of other people agreed with me. They said the same thing. People are going to really see Monique, and that is the reason I tuned in. Now, I left a little bit of space to say, well, maybe, just maybe, Monique will go on this show, and since it is designed to make her look good, she chose the other women who are going to be on this show. These women like her. They don't have anything against her. Maybe, just maybe, she will surprise me and show me something that I like. But no, she didn't do that. She went on there and did exactly what I thought she was going to do. She went on there, and because there was no Giselle and there was no Robin and there was no Candiace or Charisse, she proved that Monique, number one, you're not as interesting as you think you are, and you're not as innocent as you. She claims that they didn't show her in a good light. They edited her poorly. They trashed her. They showed her fussing, but they didn't show full context. Now, Monique, you need to stop this line. You need to stop this avoidance of accountability. You really do. Monique went on that show and behaved the way that she always does. Let me just say this. A lot of Monique fans are married women, moms, black women that are looking for black love. If they don't already have a black man, they looking for black love. Okay, I'm just keeping it real. You went on that show and a lot of people felt like you were belittling your husband. You were putting your husband down. You're being mean to your husband. You have a good man, Savannah, and you're not treating him right. Now, we always knew that Monique had some back and forth with her husband from Potomac, right? We saw them, like we saw it, right? And of course, the whole situation happened. She gets on that show, and the first couple of scenes, she's telling her husband she wants him to find a new passion, okay? You're a retired football player, but you need to come up with something else. You can't just be sitting around the house doing nothing. She didn't want that. That's understandable, right? That's understandable that you want to see your husband do things. But what didn't make sense to me is like Monique had all these ambitions that were not being met, right? She wanted to be on radio. She wanted to be on TV. She wanted her business to grow. She wanted to do podcasts. She wanted to write children's books. You want to do all these things, But you feel like it can only be done if your husband helps you with the kids. You get a job at the radio station. You tell your husband you're going to have to start waking up at the crack of dawn to take care of the kids. Your husband says, no problem, I'll do it. And he did it. You still were unhappy. You're still unhappy. He's taking care of the kids the way you asked him to take care of the kids. You were still unhappy. Well, what's your plan for this? And what's your plan for that? You were always nagging at the man. And what I think a lot of people did not agree with Monique on is, you know who you married. You married this man who sacrificed his body for a long time to play football, made a lot of money doing this, retired, and he's just tired. He wants to enjoy his wife, his children, and relax. Enjoy his money, go on vacations, buy a new home over here, buy some toys, buy some cars. That's what he wants to do. That's where he is in life. You want to get your career going. No problem. He says, do that. I'll take care of the kids. You still was upset. It's confusing. You don't trust your kids with nannies. Your children are homeschooled, but you also wanted to have a career. So what other sense does it make besides your children being taken care of by their father? You want him to have this big, crazy career. You want to have a big, crazy career. You don't want a nanny because you're a not for lazy mom. So how was this supposed to work? You want him to find his passion so he can start working again and have a bigger career. You want to have a big career. You were unhappy. And instead of just saying that from the get-go, you're unhappy, you took us all around the mulberry bush just to get divorced. You blamed Giselle and all of them for trying to destroy your marriage. But then you admit on Love and Marriage DC Reunion that when you started Potomac, you and your husband were not even on speaking terms. How were they destroying your marriage if you guys weren't even on speaking terms before you went on the show? It doesn't make sense. Even your best friend, Gigi, who you cut ties with, came down to the internet and told us that after your first appearance on Potomac, you admitted to her that you were no longer attracted to Chris and that you were looking at other men. That is before Candiace even came on the show. That is before you even got pregnant with your third child. You corralled all these bloggers and all these YouTubers and all these different fans to sit up in our face and say that Giselle and Robin and Sharice and Candiace were trying to destroy your marriage. Now, Monique claims that they gave her a bad edit. So for those of you who watch Love and Marriage DC, I believe it was the very first episode where she kept saying, oh, it's nice to be over here where everybody is married. Everybody's married. Arena and Jamie were celebrating, I believe it was their 26th wedding anniversary. And Monique kept saying that during their party, she would like to do a Q&A. Jamie and Arena was like, we're not doing no Q&A. We came here to party. This is the first time since the pandemonium that I get to be around my friends. No, we're not doing no Q&A. We're not interested. Monique kept insisting on doing the Q&A. And when they didn't want to do the Q&A, she started being shady and making little remarks. Was that a bad edit? Did you not do that? Did you not start to poke fun at their marriage because they didn't want to give you a Q&A? It reminded me of her last season on Potomac, where she wanted to do a live podcast and she invited Karen and Candiace to come to the live podcast. Every time she brought up the live podcast, she kept making fun of Candiace, saying Candiace has never been on a honeymoon. Is that a bad edit, or were you not going around to different people making fun of the fact that Candiace had never been on a honeymoon? Now we're finding out that on your honeymoon, you and your husband were fighting. Is that a bad edit? It's like when something is done wrong to Monique, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe they did this to me. Why would they set me up this way? This is so wrong. But when it's time to set somebody else up, you be with the shits. We watch how you treated Winter. Was that a bad edit? You brought Winter into the fold. The other girls weren't really feeling Winter like that. Monique went to Africa, right? So all the other ladies got together. They had beef. They settled everything. They fixed everything. They came to a come to Jesus, and everybody was getting along. The moment Monique came back and Winter was like explaining to her, oh yeah, we had a meeting. Did they treat you nice? How did they treat you? Was that a bad edit? When you sat up there with Winter and was laughing at her making fun of Jamie and Quick, when you ran back and told Ashley, you didn't tell Ashley you was laughing. You didn't tell Ashley that you was putting in your little digs. You threw Winter completely under the bus. Is that a bad edit? When you got to that reunion and pretty much left Winter for dead, was that a bad edit? It reminded me of how she treated Candiace season 3 on Potomac. A lot of people like to talk about season 4 and season 5. Nah, Monique was dogging Candiace way back in season 3 when she first came on the show. Do y'all remember when they went to Nemacolin? Right before they went to Nemacolin, Monique and Ashley took Candiace to go, like, they were shopping for swimsuits. You know how they set up these fake little whatever. They were shopping for swimsuits. And Monique and Ashley tell Candiace, these girls keep talking to you crazy. You need to get these old ladies together. And Candiace was like, oh, I'm about to start getting them together. And they was laughing at her. If I were you and Cherie said this to me, I would have been ... in her face. Y'all gassed Candiace to go at those women. And when Candiace went at Charisse and then Giselle and then Charisse again, Monique was like, oh my God, Candiace, that's what I didn't want for you, Candiace. I didn't want you to do that. Ashley, forehead Darby, had to tell Monique, nah, Monique, Candiace did exactly what you and I both told her to do. And when she was caught, y'all know Robin be sitting in the cut waiting for her moment. Robin jumped in and said, oh, are you flip-flopping, Monique? Are you flip-flopping? Remember she sat at that table looking crazy because everybody aired her out? Ever since that moment, I knew she did not really fool with Candiace like that. She was embarrassed because all her lies came out on the table. Candiace was like, well, you told me that Charisse was jealous because you made a new friend in me. Oh, no, I didn't say that. And then Ashley was looking, well, I said it, but I was joking. Y'all remember that? The same thing she did to Winter. Same thing she did to Candiace is what she did to Winter. Monique is quick to run to the internet for sympathy, okay? She's always the victim. But when it's time to set someone else up, she's always with it. She's always down for the ride. Season 5, those women were coming at Candiace hard. Every scene was about Candiace and how they didn't like her and how she did this wrong and she did that wrong. Y'all watched it. If y'all ain't watched nothing else, I know y'all watched season 5. At the top of season 5, Monique and Candiace had a meeting where they went to lunch and they said they both would move forward differently. When they had an issue with one another, they would come to each other directly. The moment Monique spoke to Ashley, and Ashley was shading Candiace, she was sitting up there laughing. The moment Giselle gave her the time of day, she was ready to turn on Candiace. Y'all saw it. Every scene, it was Candiace was an issue. What she was not expecting was for Giselle to make up with Candiace. And when that happened, Monique lost her shit. Y'all watched it. Monique really thought when she put her hands on Candiace, she could get away with it. She thought, well, they don't really like Candiace that much. The top of the season, Candiace was the target. She thought that she could get away with it. She thought that everybody disliked Candiace enough that they were going to be on her side. And when they were not on her side, she could not take it. So she ran to the internet. She ran to all the YouTubers that she knew. She ran to all the bloggers that she knew and started a smear campaign against Candiace. That's what she did. And she was successful in that. When people were calling and threatening and writing Candiace and digging up her old tweets and doing all this stuff to Candiace, it was all good. It was all good. You didn't feel bad about that. Because she says that she realized she took out her frustrations on the wrong person. It's not the first time she admitted to doing that. When she filmed the scene with Chris, her pastor, and the first lady, the pastor told her to her face, Monique, you are used to being around people who are impressed with you. You have this perfect persona going on, and you're very impressed with yourself. When you come around this group of women, they are not as impressed with you as you are with yourself. That is the reason why you have so much issues with this group of ladies, because they do not see you the way you see yourself. They are not impressed with you. And she sat down there and started crying. She said, you've been fighting for a spot in people's life. You've been fighting for your place and your seat at the table way before you even joined these ladies. And she burst into tears and says, I'm sorry. She didn't deserve that. I should not have done that to her, and I really need to apologize. She said that. Now, when Candiace pressed charges, all that went out the window. But I don't see how that goes out the window. If you realize that, yeah, I took out my frustrations on the wrong person, you still took out your frustrations on the wrong person. You fought her in court. That was fine, because I'm not going to never tell nobody not to fight for their freedom. I'm not going to never tell nobody not to fight their day in court. But you took it past that. You took it to the internet, and you knew a lot of people did not like Candiace. So you exploited how they felt about Candiace and Ashley's situation, and you made it about you. And you had people dragging Candiace from limb to limb. So many people have since come forward and admitted that they were wrong for how they handled Candiace season 5. They only did that because they were supporting you. So when you say, oh, I acknowledge that I did da-da-da-da, if you ain't going to acknowledge the entire thing, then girl, save it. Because what you did to Candiace on social media, that was messed up. That was messed up. So for you to sit up there and say they dragged you, what was the result of the dragging? I would like to know. They showed you fussing with your husband and having arguments with your husband. They showed you being messy with the other girls. Nobody dragged you. You're mad because Winter went on that show, and even though she was unliked by the cast, the public liked her. The viewers liked her. You faded into the background on your own show. That's what you're mad about. Because even though people were disappointed in the way that you were speaking to Chris, the way that you kept getting mad with Chris, how Chris was trying so hard to understand where you were coming from, and nothing he did was the right thing. People were speaking about that. But nobody dragged you. People weren't online dragging you. Yeah, people were giving their opinions and speaking about the show. They didn't drag you. What Candiace went through with the internet, season 5, you didn't even experience a 15th of what Candiace experienced. What Candiace still experiences. I saw somebody lying on Candiace just yesterday, saying that Candiace gave Monique and Ashley hell through their pregnancies. When did Candiace give Monique hell? When? Even when they got into that physical situation, even when they got into the altercation down to the barn, what did Candiace really say to her? Candiace was like, girl, you boring. You tired? You making up stuff that don't even make sense. She didn't give that lady hell. When did she give that lady hell? The way that people, the venom that was spewed in Candiace's direction, the lies that were spewed. Like, Candiace she really went through it. The late blogger that passed away was Monique's friend. The things that he did to Candiace because of you. The things that a lot of people did to Candiace because of you. And you have the nerve to sit your ass up there and talk about some, oh my gosh, Carlos King dragged me. He let them drag me. Girl, be for real. When she says that Carlos King, I don't even know what she's trying to say, because at the end of the day, you went on that show and you thought the momentum from the fight, all the discourse, all the arguments, all the conversation, you thought that you were a star. You thought that that was going to catapult you into stardom, and it didn't. I think Carlos thought so too, and it didn't. You got on the show. The show was centered around you, and you faded into the background. The other characters were more interesting than you were. That has nothing to do with a bad edit. They were more interesting than you. That's what you're mad about. People got on there and they started saying, well, damn, now that Candiace ain't around, we starting to see Monique is a little bit annoying. Monique is a little bit, she doing too much. Why she keep fussing at Chris? She keeps saying context. I don't know what context would have helped. We saw the fights. You wanted Chris to be more active. You wanted Chris to do more. You wanted Chris to lose weight. Chris had a trainer and was trying to lose weight. Even when he's with the trainer, she's like, oh, that's not enough weights. He needs to do more. You were nagging your husband. Where is the context? You told him to lose weight. He got a trainer. He's working out. That wasn't good enough for you. You wanted him to say how much he loved you. He said he loved you. That wasn't enough for you. You wanted him to help you with the kids. He was helping you with the kids. That wasn't enough for you. Nothing that he did was good enough for you. Then you're over here with these other women, and their stories are more compelling. We want to hear what they're talking about. You're mad that you faded into the background. That's what you're mad about. You wanted them to make you look good, but they can only edit what you give them. If you didn't give them anything that made people like you, what do you want them to do about it? I'm like, what do you want them to do? I don't know. This video started to get too long. At the end of the day, when it comes to Monique, I think that Monique is just an unhappy person. I think Monique, she's like an Instagram account. You know how people fix their Instagram to where they post things so that you be like, oh, I like that. But that's not who they really are. But they edit their pictures to be a certain way so you can be just looking at their account like, ooh, and on, like, oh my gosh, man, her life looks so exciting. I think that's how Monique lives her life. Like, she is this curated version of herself. And people like that. And then the moment she kind of shows who she really is, she has a moment where she loses control and shows who she really is, people don't like it. She doesn't like that. People saw that about her. And when she's on TV show, she feels as though production is supposed to hide those things for her. They're supposed to protect her in that way. And it's, girl, it's too much. It's too much. At the end of the day, you came on Potomac pretending to be something you weren't, pretending your marriage was something that it wasn't. You admitted that you and your husband were not even on speaking terms when you first joined Potomac. And Potomac forced you guys to have conversations. But you did not show us that when you were on Potomac. You made it seem like you and your husband were just great. The only time you were ever honest to say that we have issues was season 3, when you're like, oh, he's always acting funny when it's around my birthday time. We didn't see the acting funny. The man said, girl, go on a trip and enjoy yourself. We didn't see where you were acting funny. The man says, hey, babe, I got money. Let's take some of the pressure off of you. Let's hire some help. You didn't want that because you are not for lazy mom. You have this perfect idea of how you're supposed to look to people. When people don't see you in that way, you lose your shit. And that's weird. I think that Monique got with Chris during a tough time in her life. Like, she said it, right? Her and her pastor had this conversation on Potomac. When she met Chris, she was living in her truck. Okay, remember, she was trying to be a rapper. She said that the industry was nasty. They all trying to sleep with her. I believe it, because Monique is a very beautiful woman. And she was a young thing, and she's trying to be a rapper. I do believe that they was trying to, you know, and she said, no diddy. I believe her when she said that. She was like, no diddy, okay? And because of that, she ended up living in her truck. She met Chris, became his assistant. They say Chris was engaged to a pre-med student. That's what the people say. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard from several sources. You got with Chris, of course Chris is going to look like the best thing you ever seen because you're broke and he's super rich. You don't have a house. He has 4. So of course, Chris was everything to you. But after you've enjoyed living in a big house, going on vacations, buying nice things and all of that, now you're stuck in this house with this man who doesn't work. You don't work. And then the opportunity of a show comes along. You love this show. You love the show because if nothing else, it gives you time away from your husband. It gives you time away from your children. you know for sure that you're going to be on 2 vacations, husband and child free. And you're on TV, you're getting a little bit of fame, you're gonna have to do press tours. Like, you had a good thing with Potomac. Giselle didn't like you. But Giselle really wasn't bothering you until after the Sherman thing. And as much as I can't stand Giselle right now, you started with her. She didn't like you, but she didn't have to like you. She's not forced to like you. Everyone else was giving you a chance. And you were so hung up on the fact that Giselle didn't like you. And you tricked yourself out of your spot. You were so hung up on Giselle, then you switched your obsession to Candiace, and you tricked yourself out of your spot. You really did. As far as her marriage falling apart, I don't really think her marriage fell apart. I think her marriage fell apart a long time ago. You married a man because he had what you needed. And once you enjoyed all the things that you needed from him, you was married to him 10 years, you have 3 kids with him, you know for a fact you're going to leave with something, you left. Because you weren't happy. But you never were happy in that relationship. I don't think the relationship was ever real. I'm so sorry to say it, but I don't think the relationship was ever real. You were in need, and he had a lot to offer. Once you were no longer in need, you didn't want to be with that man no more. I don't know if she slept with the trainer, but I definitely feel like she had an inappropriate relationship with the trainer. Whether it was an emotional connection, whether it was an actual full-out affair, I don't know. But I think she went through what Mia's going through. Mia been with her old-ass man for so long, and now she doesn't really need him financially, so she wants to be set free. And I think that's what Monique wanted. That's why Monique kept getting all these different pets, different business venture ideas. She wanted out of that marriage. And she hated herself because she didn't want to think she was a gold digger. And I don't want to call her a gold digger, but let's be real. You married Chris because he had that money. You said you never wanted to have children. You didn't want to do all these different things. But then you married Chris and you ended up with 3 kids. And I'm sure you love your kids. But when you seeing Candiace walking around freely, her husband not putting pressure on her to have babies, I think you felt the way. You saw Candiace walking around freely and she lets it be known. Yes, my husband have kids from previous relationships. Yeah, my husband is white. Yeah, my man is this. Yeah, me and my mama go back and forth. Yeah, my life ain't perfect, but this is just who I am. And she was so comfortable in her own skin, I think it irked Monique. Because Monique has to pretend to be perfect. And even still, people don't like her. But Candiace could be a hot mess. She could have all these different things going around. Her debut was all over the place. But she was 100% herself. And for that, she found a genuine group of people who really liked her. And Monique, your fans won't even change the channel to go watch you on Love and Marriage DC. There's a lot of people that don't like Candiace, but the people that love Candiace, it's a real love. It's a sincere love. You don't really have that. People like the idea of you, Monique, but they don't really like you. And I just think she's an unhappy person, and she refuses to just own it. Like, girl, just own it. You married Chris because Chris had what you needed. Stability. He had money. He had a family unit. He had everything that you wanted in a man. But you didn't love him as a human, as a person. And you unhappy. You unhappy about the situation. You sat up there and made fun of Giselle so many different ways about her not having a husband, her not having a man, her not being in a relationship. But you were unhappy in yours. Who does that? Like, how can you be so unhappy, so miserable? Every time your husband have the smallest conversation, you end up crying, or you end up flipping out and assaulting someone, but you're making fun of another lady because she don't have a man. That don't make no sense. I don't know. Monique is full of shit. Like I said, I believe everything she said about Carlos. I do believe that Carlos buttered her up on some we black, let's stick together. He definitely did that. But you used him. He used you. You're just mad that you didn't get out of it what you wanted to get out of it. But sometimes some things just can't be edited in. If you didn't give them that, they can't edit it into the show. You got to get him something to work with. You got to get him something. You was on that show when Winter was being dragged. You were A-okay with Winter getting dragged. You didn't even get dragged on that show. Yeah, people were looking at you crazy like, you got a good man, Savannah. Why are you giving him such a hard time? Absolutely, but those are your fans. That's how your fan thinks. A lot of the people who are fans of Monique are looking at her like, girl, why are you messing up this good thing you got with this man? I don't know. But I don't know. I just feel a way about her saying, oh, Carlos did me worse than the white folks. Girl, how? You did yourself worse than the white folks. You're just mad. I don't believe none of that. I just feel like you're just mad. You went on that show. They propped you up to be the star. They casted everyone on that show around you. Everyone that was on that show loved Monique. And you fell flat. Because people started to realize you never really were that interesting. You had a moment here and there on Potomac, but you really wasn't that girl. You came on this show and you had everybody wrapped around your finger and you still couldn't deliver. Winter, who had never been on reality TV, came in and stole the show right from up under you. That's why you had aggression towards her. If they had stayed on the show long enough together. And then she's talking about, oh, it was unorganized. It was all over the place. I believe that, but you were fine with it. Because somebody pulled the receipt of you praising how good the production staff was. So how you was praising them and now you talking about they was all unorganized, they was all over the place. Girl, are you saying this because you want to come back to Potomac? You want Bravo to call you? You want Bravo to call you to come back? Is that what you're doing? That's why you trashing Carlos? And Carlos, you might deserve it because Carlos, you've been out of pocket lately. You have been out of pocket lately. Like, I get that reality TV is messy and there's drama. But it's just like, lately, Carlos, you've been doing a lot. You've been doing a lot. You've been doing a lot, Carlos. Like, the support from Mia really just throws me off. It just really, like, doesn't make you look professional. It really don't. But I don't feel like Carlos is to blame for why Monique did not have a good experience. I don't even think Monique's experience was bad. She was at that reunion giddy as hell. She watched the whole season like the rest of us, and she went on that reunion giddy as hell. She was happy to be there. She was so happy to be there. She was giving everybody advice. She was fine. You signed up to do second season, and then at the last minute, you didn't show up. Monique, you're still a liar. And that's sad. At your big age, you still lying. Anyways, child, I done spoke enough about the bird lady. This is why she will forever be the bird lady. Until she can be honest and just say what's what, she's always going to be a bird in my eyes. Anyways, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.